Hello, my name is Ann Purvis, and I am one of the leaders of the Toronto Field Naturalist Juniors program. This was the slideshow that was put together for the final class, which took place on June 9th for this spring 2021. This is a story that we had been following, this first slide, and it reminded me of our 6 kids getting very large and beginning to find home very crowded. Marina and Sonia found these heron nests earlier in the season when there was just mothers sitting on eggs, and Jim and I were able to visit. This was at Courtright Conservation Area, and now the juveniles have grown up. They get very demanding as time goes on. At first they tap the parent's beak to get them to regurgitate food, but as they get bigger they actually grab the parent's beak and pull it into the nest. They will practice flying, practice stretching their wings and making them strong before they actually leave the nest. But they leave within 60 days, so within 2 months. So this is an adult fishing on the banks of the river, probably going after frogs or fish in the pond there. Abby submitted this photo of a dragonfly that landed on her hand. I believe this is a common female basket tail, and they patrol a clearing at knee-high near water. They can catch flying fire ants in flight. I thought this was a wonderful piece of news. This is something eats fire ants. They also patrol over water and will suddenly stop to inspect a place where they could lay their eggs and then zip off again. So I challenged the group whether these 3 photos are of the same creature. Some people knew that they were. So these are ladybugs in 3 different stages of metamorphosis. We are seeing a larva and a pupa and an adult. So which one eats? It is the larva, of course. So ladybugs will lay their eggs on the bottom of a leaf where aphids feed. One larva can eat up to 5,000 aphids in its life. This is why farmers and gardeners love them. Aphids are sucking insects that can really actually cause a plant to wilt or even to die. So they got the name ladybug in the Middle Ages. Farmers prayed to the Virgin Mary to save their crops from an infestation. The ladybugs wiped out the aphids that were eating their crops, so the farmers started calling the ladybug the beetle of Our Lady. So I included the photo on the right, even though it isn't one of ours, just because this is a common caterpillar, the eastern tent caterpillar, and it is interesting to see what a cute moth it turns into. So is the tent caterpillar friend or foe? Eastern tent caterpillars are native and not nearly as serious a pest as gypsy moth. Tent caterpillars feed on apple and cherry trees and members of the rose family. They have an interesting life. As soon as the babies hatch, they spin a tent and live in there. They leave together 3 times a day to feed. Before they leave, they'll add a layer to their tent. The tent is different temperatures and different layers, so they can move around to get comfortable. Occasionally, you see them hanging from their abdomen from the tent to get cooled off. Parasitoid wasps do lay their eggs on them. They twitch when they think an enemy is near. This is a woolly bear caterpillar, and the female will lay large numbers of eggs on one plant, and they feed as a group, skeletonizing the plant. They use lots of different plants though, so they don't put any particular plant at risk, but this is a gorgeous moth that it turns into. I had woolly bears, yellow woolly bears feeding on thistles in our backyard last year. So I believe this is a coral hair streak, this picture that was submitted by Sonia and Marina. It likes butterfly weed. Here it's feeding on cow vetch, but it loves butterfly weed, the bright orange milkweed that many pollinator gardens contain. So I challenged the group whether these 2 butterflies are the same or different. So what is the same and what is different? They believe they were different butterflies, so they have the same big eyes, the same antenna, the same general shape, but the coloring is different. So the one on the left is a silver-spotted skipper, and the one on the right is a Hobomok skipper. What is different about them is the shape and coloring of the patch on the wing. They're even eating from the same cow vetch here. This is a praying mantis egg case, which contains probably up to 300 eggs. So the babies they come out as nymphs, sort of like a dragonfly nymph, and they just get bigger and bigger until shedding their exoskeleton, and then until they become an adult praying mantis. So they're the same shape and structure throughout their entire life. People love these praying mantises and will sometimes purchase these egg cases for their gardens because praying mantises eat so many insects and keep down the pests in a garden. We've mentioned many uses that people make of insects. We love ladybugs to eat the aphids in our gardens and praying mantises to deal with pests. But they're also important for our ecosystems. Abby and Amelia got to watch this robin nest a couple of years ago. They just submitted these pictures in June. But we can only guess how many insects this female robin has had to collect to feed all these birds and to allow them to reach adulthood. So in the ecosystem, insects are hugely important as bird food. Abby sent in these photos from her garden, lilac, forget-me-not, and false Solomon seal, and I challenged the group which one of these would be most useful to insects for producing pollen and nectar. It is actually the one on the right, which is false Solomon seal, which is a native plant. The two on the left are not native, and a lot of insects just have not been able to adapt to using them as a food source. We saw this plant in another season, and Marina told us that she ate barberry candy made from the orange berries of barberry when she was growing up in Russia. These are 3 different bees feeding from 3 different plants: raspberry, ninebark, and goat's beard. So that's very exciting. These are all from our pollinator garden at the Church of the Resurrection. So I asked the group what they could see in this photo. Everybody noticed the half-eaten leaf of the nannyberry, but there's also a leaf sewn together in the middle of this photo. So this is a scoopwing moth nest, and they had eaten part of the nannyberry leaf and then stitched together another one, I guess when they got big enough to form a nest. There were several of these, so I opened one up and found a very small caterpillar inside. I believe when they reach a certain size, they feed inside one of these nests as a protection. And if they're attacked, then they'll create a silk belay line and drop to the ground. When I first saw this video that Amara submitted, I was quite mystified. And then I saw this crab spider on the buttercup, which has captured a bee, and it made me wonder if in the video what we're seeing is a crab spider eating ladybug larvae. This is an oil beetle on the left. It gives off an oil from their joints when handled that can cause your skin to blister. It's a great defense against predators. Eggs are laid in the soil by females, and when the larvae hatch, they climb into a flower and wait for visiting solitary bees. With their well-developed claws, the larvae attach themselves to the bee and return to the bee nest. Here they feed on the bee's eggs and the pollen and the nectar it has collected. The larva pupates in the bee's nest and leaves the nest to seek a mate directly after. The beetle and its life cycle are 70% of a skunk's diet. So this is a photo of a skunk on the left. Beetles and beetle larvae are... Finally, I wanted to, this was a photo submitted by Jenny and Abby of a doe, but I wanted to mention that we were camping the weekend before we put together this slideshow, and I got up early to hear the dawn chorus. I startled a doe, but the remarkable thing was that she didn't run away. She stood her ground, she stamped her feet and was swishing her tail. And I knew from the session that we had had in our nature class that a doe leaves her fawn hidden and goes out to forage for a large part of the day. And I guessed that this doe had a fawn close to where I was, and that's why she wasn't planning to just abandon that fawn.